Today we're going to learn a simple trick which will help us to outline a dominant 7th chord within our blues playing. Now, to be able to outline these chords, we first need to understand what the intervals are within them. So the dominant 7th chord contains the following intervals. It has a 1, a 3, a 5 and a flattened 7th. So the triad within that, the 1, 3 and 5 is a major chord, a major triad, but we add that flattened 7th on the top which makes it dominant. Now, in terms of scale choice to play over the top of this, the diatonic choice to play over the top of this would be the Mixolydian scale, which has the intervals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a flattened 7th. So it's basically a major scale but with a flattened 7th, and it fits the chord perfectly. But if you're new to playing this kind of stuff, you find it's quite tricky sometimes to wrestle these larger scales and still locate where all the chord tones are. So what I want to do today is I want to help you visualize where these chord tones are by utilizing the skills that you probably already have. Now, if you've been playing the blues so far, the major blues, you probably would have played the minor pentatonic over the top of it. So the blues is based on, the major blues this is based on 7 chords. We have 3 of them. The 1 chord, A7 in this instance, the 4 chord, a D7 chord, and we have a 5 chord, which is an E7 chord. Now, if we're going to outline those chords, we need to be able to have a way of playing a scale or an arpeggio or triad or whatever route we're going to use that targets the chord tones of those chords. And when we get into this is where we really start developing modulation techniques and training our ears and our visualization techniques to help us through this type of thing. But it doesn't have to be too complicated. The actual underlying concept here is quite simple. We just need to use tools that we're familiar with to build it up from, and then we can expand it and add in all the kind of spicy stuff afterwards. So what I'm going to get you doing is doing something which you probably already do. So if you are playing some blues improvisation over these chords, I would suspect that you probably already played around with the minor pentatonic scale. And that's fantastic, that's great. But there is a problem with the minor pentatonic scale. If you look at the intervals of the minor pentatonic scale, it has the intervals 1, flat 3, 4, 5 and flat 7. Whereas our dominant 7th chord, which we require, is 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So the third note is a clash. We get a minor third played against a major chord. So the minor third in our scale played against the major third of the chord. Now when this occurs, this is the actual blues note. So when we talk about the blues note, it's the third. It's a minor third against a major chord. Now theoretically, it's wrong because ideally you always want to play the same third that's within the chord. That's what makes it major or minor. But because of the blues and the repertoire we have, it's used so often that it's become acceptable when we consider it the blues note. Now we can utilise that to help us with our playing. The eagle eye you may also notice there's a 4th interval within the pentatonic scale. That doesn't clash, we can use that as a colour tone. It's an 11th if you consider it as an extension. But this minor third is kind of a problem, but it doesn't have to be. You can use it to our advantage. So what I'd like to suggest that you do to kind of get you used to improvising over a dominant 7th chord is to use your minor pentatonic, but use the minor third as an approach note and correct it each time you play it to a major third. So if we look at our scale, the minor pentatonic scale, it will look like this. Playing it within position 1 because everyone's familiar with that. Now, what we want to be able to do with anything we're playing, any scale or arpeggio, is we really need to know where the intervals are, and if nothing else, we need to understand where the third is. So within this position 1 of our minor pentatonic scale, the third note occurs here. Now, what we want to do is every time we hit a minor third, I want you to raise it a semitone to a major third. Now, it's a little bit awkward on this big stretch on the top position, so I'll show you a little trick, but if you were going to do it, you could just slide up there and then play through your scale. You may find it easier in terms of playability to actually utilise the top of the 5th position and just drop that third back. So root note's here, rather than reaching to it there, you could drop back and grab the 3rd fret of the A string, and that's your minor third. But I want you to resolve this. I want you to use it as an approach note to your major third. So if you do that, what we do here is bring it up to the third. Let's play for the rest of the scale, up to the fourth, fifth, flat 7, and then we're up to the octave or the 1 again. If we play the second octave, we've got the first minor third here. So here we're on the fifth fret of the third string. This is a minor third, so again I want you to resolve this up a semitone to a major third. So we'd have, so that's 5, 6 on that G string, up to the 7th fret, which is the 4th interval, then on the 5th interval, flat 7, and finally up to our octave again on the first string on the 5th fret. We also have this very last note on the position. Again, that's a minor third, so to use that as an approach note, we want to resolve that, we'd have to resolve up a semitone. Again, it's a little bit awkward because you're kind of getting a little bit out of position. You might like to consider that as part of your second position. It's up to you, but you can see what I'm trying to say with this type of thing. Now, if we do that, then what we're doing is we're changing the harmony of our scale. Our scale is no longer 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and flat 7. It's now 1, flat 3, resolving to a major third, which is the correct note, 4, 5, and flat 7. So we have a scale which actually befits the chord really nicely, and we've got that nice little colour tone of the 4th on the top. So if we put into that some sort of musical context, let's just play around with this first position, and just imagine that 7th chord in the background, and I'll play it as well just to kind of spell it out. So here is our 7th chord. I'm going to improvise with that using classic blues lick, nothing special. When I hit that third there, you notice I corrected it, and that gave me a nice little resolution. I resolved on the root note in the end. But that little approach note just gives it a little bit of bluesy flavour, makes it sound interesting. And you can chuck this into any of your standard blues licks that you use in this position. You can even include the flat 5 if you use the blues scale, and you get some really nice sounds. So all the time, it sounds like I'm playing that dominant 7th chord. I haven't added too many spicy notes. I've really made the outline of the chord important because I want you to hear in your head this sound. This is what I'm really trying to spell out. And whatever I do, it makes that dominant 7th sound. Now, it's also worth noting as a visualization technique, I am still visualizing the actual physical chord shape behind that. That helps you see all the chord intervals behind it. So we've got the underlying major chord. I can see that. And then I just have to add the 7th to give me the dominant sound. And we have very simple dominant 7th improvisation. Now what I'd recommend you did is you utilise this throughout your pentatonic scale. It's a great way of learning where the thirds are, to use a scale that you're already familiar with. Learn it throughout the positions and get used to improvising those places. Incorporate this idea into your phrasing. If you can do this, then improvising over major blues becomes very simple. Your pentatonic scale will give you everything you need, and you are effectively playing the Mixolydian scale, just less a little bit of colour. All you really need to do is add in the 9th and the 13th, or the 2 and the 6th, if you like. So the same principle to make this Mixolydian is very simple. Just adding in that 6th there. And the 2 there. Really easy to do, just to add in these extra little colours. So I'll stop there. I hope that's useful. Using the techniques that you already know, simple pentatonic scale, just use that minor third as an approach note to your major third and you will create the dominant tones. Please do make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, leave me a comment below, and check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you soon. Take care for now.